The Black-Eyed People by Ian Winter. On October 7th, 1994, I sat at the side of my father's hospital bed watching him slowly fade away into nothing. My father, Richard Marsh, was a successful architect in New York City until his Huntington's disease caught up to him. So I sat there watching him fade away, wondering if I got the disease, would I vanish from existence without anyone remembering me? In the midst of my spiral, my ghostly father spoke to me. "How's your grades, Frankie?" he whispered. "Good," I said in a shaky voice. That was a lie. "I had a dream, Frankie." "What was it?" "It was a good dream," he said with a thin, emotionless smile on his face. "I dreamt of this thing. I don't know if it was a man or a woman, but its eyes were all black and it wore a top hat. It came to me and stuck out his arms, so I grabbed it. Then I felt my body slowly getting younger and younger until I simply didn't exist." He smiled a cold smile while saying this. "It was a wonderful feeling, Frankie. No pain, no worries, just nothingness." My father has become very strange lately, so comments like these are hard to respond to, but not shocking anymore. "I wish you could experience this too, Frankie." I couldn't believe what I was hearing. I hated who my father has become. I don't even recognize him anymore. It's no longer how he looks, but rather his temperament. He used to be so positive and outgoing, always seeing a reason to live life that day, and now he's telling me that he'd take back all those good memories, to be alone forever, just not to feel the bad ones. "I gotta go now, Dad," I said, trying to get out of this nightmare. "Okay, Frankie," he groaned. I turned around and looked at him before I left. I took one good look at him, just in case this was the last time I ever saw him. I wish now that I hadn't. What I saw was an old man, nothing but skin and bones, who looked green and sickly. His eye sockets were sunken, and his eyes were completely black. I left the hospital faster than I arrived. I jumped on my beaten-up Madrid skateboard in the crisp October air and fled. All I could think about were my father's eyes. Was it just a shadow cast over his eyes? Or were they completely and utterly black, like the thing in his dream? I tried not to think about it. I wanted to remember my father for who he once was and not who he is now. But it was so hard. Too hard. I skated faster now, past the Victorian houses covered in dead leaves. I love to skate fast. It made me feel young. I'm so scared for the day where I can't do the things I was once able to do. I'm scared for the day I'm like my father, weak and unable to do anything but lay in bed and let other people care for me. So I went faster and faster. Suddenly my mind was clear, and for the first and last time in a while, I was happy. Maybe this day wouldn't be as bad as I suspected. I felt like death and age had no power over me in this moment, until my front wheel stopped and I went flying off my feet and hit the ground violently. The feeling of invincibility flooded out of me. I got up, having a few scrapes on my hand, and picked up my board. I looked under and saw a crumpled up piece of paper between the wheels of the board. I took it out and it was a poster for the carnival. I thought it was old due to the condition of the paper, but when I saw the date it said October 1st through the 31st, 1994. I thought this would be a great way to kill time. I arrived at the carnival. It actually looked better than I thought. The place was shining and everything looked new, perfect, and young. I walked to the ticket booth and purchased a ticket from a man who wore a tall top hat, casting an ominous shadow across his face. With a shaky hand, he passed me my ticket. I walked into the carnival and immediately realized something was wrong. The place was falling apart and rotting. It confused me how it was so perfect on the outside, but on the inside it was completely different. The people here all had blank expressions and slouched postures. I turned around to leave, knowing something bad was to happen if I stayed. I almost got to the exit when something tapped my shoulder. I turned around and saw it was the ticket agent. He said to me in a grisly voice, "Where do you think you're going, Frankie? The show is about to start." "What show?" "Just watch." He pointed to the big stage at the back of the carnival. "This place is different, Frankie." I didn't respond. I just watched the stage. "At this carnival, we let people stay young forever," he growled. "How?" I asked, not really wanting to know, but felt like I had to say something. "We take the youth from someone else." He looked down at me. I could see his eyes now. They were completely black. I looked away from him fast, and he laughed under his breath. I looked back at the stage, and out walked a young man. It was my father. "Can you guess whose youth he took?" the top hat man said to me. I decided to walk away, but then I felt the cold feeling of everyone staring at you. I turned back towards the stage and saw 100 black eyes staring at me. I turned around and ran. I made it inches away from the gate when a stone wall rose up in front of me. Completely baffled, I turned around and saw the army of black-eyed people trudging towards me. The whole carnival was surrounded by this wall now. I scanned the carnival looking for a place to hide when I saw the fun house with no one by it, so I took my chance and I ran for it. I could feel the ground shake. I looked quickly behind me to see an army of over 1,000 black-eyed people chasing me. I slid and fell in the mud but quickly got back up. My legs were getting heavy and my breath felt shallower. I fell again. This time I could hear the raspy breathing of the horde. I got up and tried to run. I was just inches away from the door, but my feet felt like they were made of lead. I fell again, this time due to the shaking of the ground from the horde. I crawled to the door of the funhouse because I couldn't lift my feet. I could feel the tips of one of their cold dead fingers graze my ankles when I pulled the door shut. Everything went quiet. I turned around in the green glow of the funhouse. It was a mirror maze, but what I saw reflected back at me was an old man, who was me. I looked down at my hands and saw they were skinny and wrinkly. I tried to move, but it hurt every bone in my body. I collapsed onto the lonely floor. My father had traded my life for his. I looked down at my hands and could start to see bone peeking through my skin. I looked up and saw the rest of my body was decaying. This was it. The day I've been dreading. This is the day I die. I grabbed a pen from my pocket and the poster from the carnival and started to write my story, to let the people know what happened to me, and to warn them about the black-eyed people.